I sat in Caleb Whitaker's law office, the crisp black funeral dress I wore to Uncle Ben's service still clinging to me like grief. The fabric scratched against my skin, as if reminding me that loss wasn't just emotional. It was physical, too. Sunlight filtered through the Venetian blinds, casting shadows across the gleaming mahogany conference table like prison bars. Caleb adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses and shuffled a stack of papers with precision honed from decades of legal battles. As the sole beneficiary of Benjamin Thomas's estate, he began, his voice gentle but unwavering. You inherit approximately $1.8 million in liquid assets, a majority stake in Arcadia Home and Living valued at $14.9 million, and the Craftsman estate, which has been conservatively appraised at $2.2 million. The numbers washed over me like cold water. Uncle Ben had always told me I'd inherit the business someday, but not like this. Not at 26. Not before another Christmas, another Sunday dinner, another ordinary moment stolen too soon. There are some additional personal items, Caleb continued, sliding a folder toward me. Your uncle's watch collection, his vintage Thunderbird. And the door opened, no knock. No warning. I turned, expecting Caleb's secretary with coffee. Instead, my world stopped. Standing in the doorway were Grant and Nadine Thomas, my parents. Older, weathered by time, but unmistakable. 16 years. 16 years since they vanished and left me behind with nothing but a note. No goodbye. No explanation. The porcelain cup in my hand rattled against the saucer. My heartbeat pounded in my ears like a battering ram. We heard about Benjamin's passing, Grant said, stepping forward. His voice was slick with practiced sympathy. We're so sorry for your loss. Honey. The word felt like a slap across the face. I gripped the table to stay upright. The hollow inside my chest now filled with white-hot nausea. You can't be here, I whispered. My voice didn't sound like mine. You left me. You chose to leave. Nadine took a step closer, her perfume eerily familiar after all these years. Stella, sweetheart, she began. I turned to Caleb. Did you know they were coming? His eyes widened. I most certainly did not, he stood abruptly. Mr. and Mrs. Thomas, this is a private meeting involving confidential estate matters. I'll have to ask you to leave. The kitchen flashed in my memory. I was 10, alone, empty mugs on the table. A note propped against the sugar bowl. Uncle Ben will take care of you. That was all they'd left me. And somehow, even now, part of me still wanted to understand why. I steadied myself. What do you want? Grant smiled, salesman smile. I remembered it from the driveway pitches to neighbors when he sold water filters, then solar panels, then timeshares. We wanted to pay our respects. And to see you, it's been too long. It's not the right time, I said coldly, raising a hand as if to shield myself. I need space to grieve. Please, just go. Grant's smile didn't budge, but something in his eyes darkened. We're family, Stella, he said. We have every right to be here, Nadine added softly. We've been waiting to reconnect. And now seemed right. Right. Now. Just after Ben died. Just after I inherited everything he built. That's when it clicked. They weren't here for me. They were here for what Ben left behind. Caleb stepped forward. Mrs. Thomas, perhaps we can schedule something later. Ms. Thomas is not in a condition to handle this right now. I saw it then. The glance exchanged between my parents. The same look they used to give each other before a con, before they teamed up. They planned this ambush. A knock interrupted us. Iris entered, her hair in its usual bun, a fresh box of tissues in one hand. Her eyes scanned the room, stopping at my parents. Miss Stella, she said, her southern drawl thickening. I've brought the car round. You look pale, dear. I had to choose, stay and fight or flee with Iris. My childhood instincts screamed run. My adult self urged me to stand. Before I could move, Iris stepped between me and my parents, a protective wall in pressed linen. Grant raised an eyebrow. Still keeping the help around, I see? Iris didn't flinch. I've been part of this family for 16 years. Mr. Thomas. That word, family, hung heavy. Something inside me clicked into place. I stood, picked up Uncle Ben's folder and my purse. Iris's family, I said, looking directly at my parents. You're strangers. And just like that, I didn't bolt. I walked. Slowly, deliberately, Iris beside me. Shoulder to shoulder, message sent. Grant's smile faltered. Nadine flinched. We'll be in touch. Grant said, like a man concluding a sales pitch. I'm sure you will, I said coolly. As we walked out, Iris slipped her hand into mine and gave it a quiet squeeze. Whatever came next, we'd face it together. 3 days passed, 3 sleepless nights. Jumping at every sound outside the Craftsman estate, watching headlights crawl past, wondering if they'd come back. Sunday morning, I stood in Uncle Ben's kitchen, now my kitchen, watching the coffee drip into the pot he bought last year. Sunlight spilled across the counters he'd renovated himself, turning the granite a warm honey tone. The doorbell rang. I didn't need to check the peephole. I already knew. When I opened the door, they stood side by side, Grant and Nadine Thomas. An aging catalog couple, Grant in khakis and a blue button-down, Nadine in cream slacks and a pearl-trimmed cardigan. I didn't move. You can't just show up here. Grant gave me that same disarming smile he used on investors back when I was a child. We just want to talk, Stella. 5 minutes, please. Caleb had advised against contact. But a 10-year-old part of me, the abandoned child still craving answers, overruled my better judgment. I stepped aside. They entered like they owned the place. Their eyes roamed, not with nostalgia, but with calculation. Renovated cabinets, custom Viking range, framed art Uncle Ben curated from local artists. They weren't admiring. They were assessing. Coffee? I asked. Not out of hospitality, just to keep my hands busy. Black, Grant replied, already easing into a kitchen chair like it belonged to him. Your mother takes cream and sugar. I know how Iris takes her coffee, I said coolly. I was asking about you two. Nadine flinched but accepted the mug I handed her. This is a beautiful home, she said, voice light, artificial. Benjamin always had such good taste. I didn't reply. I stood by the counter, not joining them at the table where Uncle Ben taught me business ethics and how to read a balance sheet. Grant took a sip, then slid a leather portfolio onto the table. We've done our research, he said. That business is worth nearly $15 million, just like that. No pretense. The masks dropped. My stomach tightened. Nadine opened the portfolio, financial statements, valuation charts, property assessments, pages of research. We just want to understand the full picture, she said softly. Honey, stop calling me that, I snapped. Where did you get all this? Grant pushed a document toward me. A complete analysis of your inheritance, he said. Business assets, cash, real estate, everything. I didn't touch it. Where did you get this? I asked again, my voice cold. It's not important. It's very important. Nadine glanced at him. We tried contacting Benjamin over the years for money, I said. The realization clicked into place like a lock turning. Uncle Ben never told me. He shielded me. He protected me from this. Grant sighed, exasperated. He painted a very one-sided picture of us, I'm sure. He didn't have to paint anything, I replied. You left a note and vanished. Nadine reached into her purse and slid out a second folder, different from the first. There are things you don't know, she said. I hesitated, then opened it. Court documents, custody agreements, financial disclosures, and then one figure hit me like a punch to the gut, $30,500. What is this? I asked, even though I already knew. We were in a difficult situation, Nadine said quietly. Benjamin offered to take full custody if you signed away your parental rights, I finished. I stared at the number again. You sold me for $13,000. Grant shook his head. That's not how it was. It's exactly how it was. Silence fell like a curtain. The only sound was the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. Uncle Ben's clock, the one he wound every Sunday night while telling me stories about his childhood. He didn't just raise me. He bought my freedom, everything he ever gave me, the college tuition, the job, the house, was part of a fortress he built around me. A shield, he kept them away. You timed this, I said quietly. You waited until he was gone. Grant's face tightened. We have problems, Stella. Serious ones. What kind? I owe $85,000 to men who don't accept delays, he said. Nadine added, I've been in treatment. The medical bills, and I have over $40,000 in credit card debt. So you need money. Fast. What, 60 days? Grant blinked, caught off guard. We're still your parents, he said. Family helps family. Family doesn't sell their child, I replied flatly. Family doesn't disappear for 16 years. We'll contest the will if we have to, he said, voice firm now. We have rights as your biological parents, I laughed. Bitter and sharp, you signed away those rights. In court. For a check. Legal language can be reinterpreted, he replied, his tone hardening. We had bad counsel. No one explained what it really meant. The threat wasn't veiled. They weren't just desperate. They were dangerous, and dangerous people with nothing to lose are the most unpredictable. A floorboard creaked. Iris stood in the doorway. Her eyes swept the scene. The open folders, my rigid posture, their hungry expressions. I think that's enough, she said, her voice quiet but firm. Grant waved her off. This is a family matter, Iris, she stepped forward. And Stella is my family. That word again. My parents gathered their documents. At the door, Grant paused. Think about what we said, he said. I'm sure you'll be in touch, I replied. After they left, Iris led me to the couch and disappeared into the kitchen. She returned with tea. Uncle Ben's best porcelain cups. The ones reserved for important occasions. You heard everything? I asked. She nodded. Mr. Ben saw this day coming. He prepared for it. My phone buzzed. Caleb's name lit the screen. Stella, he said. I've been reviewing files Ben stored in a private safe deposit box. There's a lot. Legal statements, witness testimonies, financial documentation, all about your parents. You knew. Not until today. But Ben made sure you'd have everything you need. Iris took my hand and squeezed it. Gently, whatever storm was coming, we'd weather it together. Ben hadn't just left me an inheritance. He'd left me an arsenal Monday morning. I arrived at Caleb's office early, Uncle Ben's leather portfolio clutched tight against my chest like a shield. The conference table, once a symbol of mourning, had been transformed into a battlefield. Neat stacks of manila folders lined its surface, each one labeled in Uncle Ben's sharp handwriting. Caleb adjusted his glasses as sunlight poured in through the blinds. Your uncle was nothing if not thorough, he said, sliding a folder toward me. These, he continued, are private investigator reports, surveillance records dating back to 2019. I opened the folder. Photographs, grainy images of my parents lingering outside Arcadia's flagship store. Transcripts of voicemails left on Uncle Ben's private line. All the same theme, financial help. Amounts requested ranged from $5,000 to $75,000. There's more, Caleb said, flipping open a second folder. Audio recordings. Ben had a system installed after their first surprise visit. He tapped his keyboard, and suddenly my father's voice filled the room. Listen, Benjamin, we both know you've got the money. If you don't help your own brother, I'll cause problems for that precious business of yours. The girl doesn't need to know about this call. My skin crawled. Play it again, I said. This time, I listened carefully, not to the words, but the background, clinking glasses, low murmurs. That's Charlie's Tavern, I muttered. Uncle Ben never went there. They must have followed him, Caleb confirmed. Cornered him somewhere he didn't expect. Another folder. Medical emergency letters. All from Nadine. Each more desperate than the last. But in the margins, Ben had written in his neat pen, verified false. No treatment records exist. PI confirmed. These are the most significant, Caleb said, placing one final document in front of me. A restraining order. Granted in 2021, I scanned the court document. Repeated financial coercion. Emotional manipulation, harassment. He knew, I whispered. He knew they'd come after me the moment he died. Caleb nodded. Which is why he documented everything. For the first time since Ben's death, I didn't feel cornered. I felt armed. I want to meet them, I said quietly. But not here. Caleb looked up, surprised. Where then? At the store, I said. They won't cause a scene in public. And I want witnesses. 2 hours later, I stood beneath the soaring ceilings of Arcadia Home and Living's showroom. Sunlight gleamed off polished oak dining sets, hand-woven rugs, and restored antique desks. The air carried the scent of cedar and lavender, Uncle Ben's signature blend. When Grant and Nadine walked through the doors, they paused, momentarily thrown by the grandeur. They looked sharp, curated. Grant wore a charcoal suit that couldn't hide his weight gain. Nadine's cream-colored dress softened her face, made her appear gentler, more maternal. I stood near the antique desk Ben had restored himself. My fingers brushed its smooth edge like armor. "Thanks for coming," I said calmly, loud enough for nearby customers to hear. Grant's smile flickered. "Of course, honey." I found everything," I said, cutting him off. "The court orders. The restraining order from 2021, the voicemails. The investigator reports." Grant's jaw flexed. Nadine's smile tightened. "I also found the check stub," I added. $13,500, that's what you took to sign away your rights to me." Nadine blanched. Customers stopped pretending not to listen. "You don't understand the context," Grant said quickly, lowering his voice. "I understand perfectly," I said. "You had debts. You were desperate. And I was—" "Convenient," Grant stepped forward. "We should discuss this somewhere private." I stepped back. "There's nothing left to discuss. The court records are clear. You have no legal claim. You sold that claim." "We're still your parents," Nadine said, her voice cracking slightly. "Biology isn't family," I replied. "Uncle Ben taught me that." Grant's jaw clenched. "This isn't over, Stella." "Actually," I said, "it is. For today." I nodded toward the exit. "Please don't come back." "You're not welcome here." They hesitated, clearly unprepared for this level of resistance, but they turned and left. As the automatic doors hissed shut behind them, I finally let myself exhale. Sarah, our store manager, stepped forward. "Your uncle always said you were stronger than you knew." Other employees drifted over. One placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. A middle-aged couple who'd overheard the confrontation approached. "That took courage," the woman said. "Ben would have been proud." In the parking lot, I found Iris waiting beside her car. "They've gone," I told her. "For now." She gave me a slow smile, her eyes glassy. "He'd be proud, Miss Stella." So very proud. My phone buzzed. "Caleb, the court records are ironclad. You did well today." I stood in the warm afternoon light, surrounded by handcrafted furniture and employees who had become my chosen family. My spine was straighter, my voice steadier, but deep down I knew what Grant had said wasn't a threat. It was a promise. This isn't over, and I believed him. 3 days had passed since the confrontation at the store. The rush of victory had settled into something colder, more calculating. I had pushed them back once, but I could feel it. They were circling. Inside Caleb's conference room, the war had gone from emotional to strategic. The polished mahogany table was now our battlefield. Legal pads filled with notes, binders of financial records, and manila folders labeled in Uncle Ben's handwriting covered every inch. Caleb slid a folder toward me. "These," he said, "are all the potential legal challenges they might attempt. Your uncle anticipated most of them." I scanned the top document. "They'll try to claim undue influence, that Ben wasn't mentally sound when he changed the will." Caleb nodded. "We have 6 months of medical evaluations from independent physicians that say otherwise. Ben had taught me never to underestimate the long game. This wasn't a single fight. It was a campaign. And we were building the arsenal brick by brick." My phone buzzed with a message from Iris. They drove past the house again. Third time today, I held up the phone to Caleb. "We need to document every encounter, every pass, every text, every whisper." He scribbled something on a legal pad. "I'll file a cease and desist. It won't stop them, but it lays the groundwork for harassment charges if this escalates." I flipped open Uncle Ben's business journals. He'd faced 3 hostile takeover attempts during his lifetime. His strategy had always been the same: preparation, precision, and never acting from emotion. "They'll try to find weak spots in the business," I said aloud. "Places they can claim mismanagement or financial instability." "Already underway," Caleb said. "We've launched a full internal audit. Every document will be in order." That was the power of legacy. Ben hadn't just built a company, he'd built a fortress. And I was learning to command it. That afternoon, Iris walked into the room with a file folder clutched tight to her chest. She placed it on the table gently, her fingers lingering at the edges. "I kept notes," she said softly. "Calls during Mr. Ben's illness. Cars that parked across the street but never came in. I didn't know if it mattered, but I wrote it all down." I opened the folder. It mattered. Her neat handwriting filled the pages, dates, times, descriptions of suspicious vehicles. Unfamiliar license plates, missed calls, all lined up in chronological order. They were watching him die, I whispered, the weight of it hitting me hard. I believe they were. Iris said, her voice quiet but resolute. I called Sarah, the store manager. Document everything, I instructed. If Grant or Nadine ask questions about staffing, supply chains, inventory, I want it logged. They've already started, Sarah said. Your father was in yesterday. Said he was just curious about the family business. A chill ran down my spine. Just note everything. Don't engage, I said. This wasn't over. It wasn't even the middle. That night, Caleb received a call. I watched his expression darken. He hung up slowly. They've hired Martin Keene. The name hit me like a blow. The Martin Keene? The one who tried to sue Arcadia in 2018? Caleb nodded grimly. The very same. He knows the company's legal structure better than anyone, so it was official. This wasn't some emotional family scuffle. This was a hostile takeover with insider knowledge. They're smarter than I thought. I murmured. Caleb's expression didn't change. Smart doesn't equal invincible. We turned back to the documents. The victory at the store had felt like a conclusion. Now I realized it had only been the opening move. By Thursday morning, the conference room didn't resemble a law office anymore. It looked like a command center. A whiteboard displayed a chronological timeline of every attempted contact. Grant and Nadine had made over the years, each one color-coded by threat level. Caleb had labeled it Hostile Actions 2009 to 2025. Legal pads, sticky notes, court transcripts, and affidavits were arranged like battle maps. Every surface of Caleb's conference table was claimed by evidence. Precedent or strategy? I stood at the head of the table, flipping through one of Uncle Ben's estate planning binders. The no contest clause is airtight, Caleb said, sliding a document toward me. If they officially challenge the will, they forfeit any claim. I scanned the clause. Uncle Ben's language was firm, deliberate. His words weren't just protective, they were prophetic. What about the litigation trust? I asked, fully funded. Enough capital to support a 5-year legal battle if necessary. He didn't want you cornered. I nodded, though the idea of 5 years of court battles made my stomach twist. But Ben hadn't raised me to flinch. Iris entered, her hands steady despite the tension in the room. She carried a thick leather binder. These are statements from every caregiver who treated Mr. Ben during his final year, she said. Nurses, doctors, physical therapists. They all confirm he was mentally sharp until the end. I took the binder carefully. Thank you, Iris. Anything from the store managers? Caleb asked. Iris nodded. All financial records secured. Mr. Johnson says the stability reports will be ready by tomorrow. We were almost there. Not winning yet. Not safe, but positioned. Caleb leaned back in his chair. We're approaching this exactly how Ben would have. Quiet strength. Documented truth. Solid ground. I turned to Iris. Her hands fidgeted at the hem of her cardigan. It was rare to see her nervous. I was reviewing Mr. Ben's will again, she said slowly. And I noticed something I hadn't before. She glanced up. He named me as backup executor, in case something happened to you. I blinked. It made perfect sense, but still hit me like a wave. Uncle Ben had trusted Iris that deeply. And if Grant and Nadine discovered that, they could target her, I said aloud. Try to discredit her. Paint her as a manipulator. Caleb's jaw tightened. It's possible, I turned to Iris. We expand our strategy. We protect you too. You don't need to worry about me, dear. Your family, I cut in. That's not negotiable. For the next 3 hours, we adapted everything. Caleb drafted affidavits from longtime employees, testifying that Iris never once overstepped or inserted herself into business matters. I compiled internal records. Her performance reviews, her promotion history, her expense logs. Every file showed a pattern: professionalism, consistency, and loyalty. Brick by brick, we fortified the wall around her too. That evening, the final pieces came together. Financial records. Check medical documentation. Check audio recordings, business logs, character witnesses, surveillance files. Check Caleb reviewed our master timeline one last time. We're as ready as we can be. I turned toward the windows. Outside, the sun dipped low over the Seattle skyline, painting the buildings gold and red. Iris stood beside me, calm now. Mr. Ben's plan was solid, she said. You've honored every step. For the first time since this all began, I felt a moment of peace. Not because it was over, but because we were no longer reacting. We were ready. Whatever they brought next, we'd meet it head-on. Friday morning. I sat on the hard wooden bench outside. Courtroom 5A, my black blazer buttoned tight like armor. Iris sat beside me, gently twisting the corner of her handkerchief. Across the aisle, Caleb sorted our documentation with his usual quiet precision. Across from us sat Grant and Nadine, and their attorney, Martin Keene. The same Martin Keene who'd once tried to sue Arcadia. Now he wore a tailored suit and the smug confidence of a man who thought he'd already won. Grant looked composed. Nadine had her hair pinned in a soft maternal bun. They looked like the picture of parental concern, except I knew better now. The bailiff's voice rang out. All rise. The Honorable Judge Eleanor Richardson presiding. The room stood. The judge entered, silver-haired, sharp-eyed, and calm. Her robe swept behind her as she took her seat. You may be seated. She scanned the files in front of her. We're here for emergency proceedings regarding the estate of Benjamin Thomas. Mr. Keene, your opening remarks? Martin stood smoothly. Thank you, Your Honor. We represent Grant and Nadine Thomas, the biological parents of Ms. Stella Thomas. They wish to express concern over the management and disposition of the late Mr. Benjamin Thomas's estate. He turned toward the judge, his voice shifting into gentle, reasonable tones. Mr. Thomas suffered from several cardiovascular events in the months prior to his death. During this period, his niece, who resided with him and depended on him financially, was in a position of influence. We believe that undue pressure may have been exerted during that time. The words fell like ice. He slid over a binder. Precedent supports our position. In Carmichael v. Westbrook, similar dynamics, cohabitation, emotional dependency, end-of-life decision-making, were determined to have created a presumptive imbalance of power. He paused, letting it hang. We request a temporary injunction freezing all estate assets until a full hearing can be held. My father leaned forward, delivering his performance with smooth sincerity. All we want is what's fair, for Stella, for Ben's legacy. Nadine nodded, her eyes moist. We're her parents. This business, it's part of our family's story, too. The judge looked to our table. Mr. Whitaker? Caleb rose slowly. A man with nothing to prove, and everything ready. Your Honor, I've represented Benjamin Thomas for over 3 decades. His will has remained consistent since Stella was 12 years old. I drafted it myself. He held up a document. In 2009, Grant and Nadine Thomas voluntarily signed away their parental rights to Benjamin Thomas in exchange for $13,500. I have the notarized records here. The courtroom stirred. The judge's brow lifted. Mr. Keene, were you aware of this? Martin cleared his throat. Your Honor, my clients have acknowledged past difficulties. They've changed. Their concern now is genuine. Caleb remained calm. I also have records of a restraining order filed by Benjamin Thomas in 2021. Included are transcripts of voicemails, private investigator reports, and verified evidence of repeated harassment, mostly financial in nature, by the petitioners. He placed a stack of folders on the table. The judge sifted through them silently. Caleb turned to the court clerk. We'd like to play an audio recording with the court's permission. Granted. A soft click. Then Grant's voice filled the room, gravelly and unmistakable. Ben, you've got $15 million tied up in that business. What's 50 grand to you? Help me out or I start making noise. Would be a shame if something disrupted Stella's position at Arcadia. Iris stiffened beside me. Caleb turned back to the judge. This call was made 14 months before Ben's passing, well before his health declined. The threats were premeditated. The judge folded her hands. Ms. Pruitt, please step forward. Iris rose, calm and graceful. Her voice didn't waver once. I cared for Mr. Ben for 16 years. He was clear-minded until the end. Still managed payroll. Still ran the showroom. Still recited SKUs from memory. She paused. And he loved Stella as if she were his own child. Then came Sarah, our store manager. 2 others followed, testifying that Ben was sharp, hands-on, and had full confidence in my leadership. He told customers all the time, Sarah said. My niece picked that line. She's got the eye. Each voice added weight, momentum, truth. Across the aisle, Nadine had turned pale. Grant's jaw ticked. When it was over, Judge Richardson removed her glasses. I have seen enough. The room went still. The request for temporary injunction is denied. Relief poured over me, but the judge wasn't finished. Further, this court finds the timing and nature of this petition highly suspect. The will includes a legally binding no contest clause. By filing this action, the petitioners have triggered it and therefore forfeit any potential inheritance. She turned directly to Grant and Nadine. This courtroom will not be used to relitigate poor decisions or manipulate legal outcomes. I am also granting a 1,000-foot restraining order to protect Ms. Thomas, her residence, and her business properties from further harassment. Grant exploded. This is outrageous. She's manipulating you. Martin tried to pull him back. Mr. Thomas, the judge said sternly, you're already walking a very thin line. The bailiff stepped forward with the paperwork. Case dismissed. Outside, the sun hit like a blessing. Reporters hovered near the courthouse steps, but I didn't need to speak. The truth had already been heard. Iris linked her arm through mine. What are you thinking, Miss Stella? I looked down at the watch on my wrist, Uncle Ben's watch. I'm thinking loyalty isn't about blood, I said. It's about who shows up. Caleb nodded behind me, silent approval in his eyes. Across the street, I saw some of our employees cheering quietly, applauding. I had entered this courtroom defending my inheritance. I walked out defending Ben's legacy and my own place in it. 6 months later, I stood at a polished oak podium under the soft glow of ballroom chandeliers, facing a sea of Seattle's most influential business leaders. The Crystal Community Leadership Award glittered beside me. Engraved with my name, Stella Thomas, CEO, heir, survivor. Our company, I began, my voice calm and steady, was built on one principle, that quality matters, in our products, our service, and especially in our relationships. Applause murmured through the crowd. The room held over 300 people, but in the front row were the ones who mattered most. Iris, elegant as ever with her silver-streaked hair pinned high. Caleb, hands folded over his lap, offering a nod of quiet pride. They weren't my blood. They were my foundation, my family. Uncle Ben used to say that integrity in business mirrors integrity in life, I continued. He believed success wasn't measured in revenue, but in trust, loyalty, and what you leave behind. Next month, Arcadia Home and Living would open its third location. Profits were up 23%. Customer satisfaction had reached an all-time high. But those numbers, impressive as they were, meant little compared to what we'd really accomplished. We had defended a legacy. And we had done it the right way. After the court ruling, Grant and Nadine left town within 48 hours. No goodbyes. No further threats. The restraining order remained active, distributed to every precinct within 100 miles. Caleb had it renewed annually. Not because we expected trouble, but because we'd learned to prepare for it. They'd underestimated Uncle Ben. They'd underestimated me, and they never expected that the girl they left behind would one day become the woman who stood in their way. The Benjamin Thomas Foundation launched 2 weeks ago. Its mission was simple: to support people recovering from familial betrayal, those navigating legal battles, rebuilding after abandonment, or simply learning how to trust again, because not all families protect you and not everyone gets an Uncle Ben. I glanced at Margaret Wilson in the crowd, our newest store manager. 3 weeks ago, she'd sat in my office, trembling, explaining how her brother was trying to blackmail her into leaking Arcadia's product line to a competitor. She reminded me of me. I'd told her what Caleb told me months ago. Preparation wins. Panic loses. And real family never makes you choose between integrity and blood. We drafted a cease and desist that same day. Iris took Margaret to coffee. Security revamped our protocols. Margaret now leads her team with confidence. That's the ripple effect of standing up once. It never really stops. Back in the estate, my estate, I walked barefoot into the study that had once been Ben's. My heels rested by the door. Blueprints for Arcadia Tacoma were spread across the desk. Organized and annotated in my handwriting, the girl who once second-guessed. Every decision now plotted expansions with precision. The girl who once shook in a courtroom now taught others how to stand their ground. The phone rang. I answered. It was the Foundation's first scholarship recipient. She'd just completed her business degree and wanted me to know before anyone else. "You're the reason I finished," she said, her voice cracking. "You believed I could rebuild?" "No," I replied. You did that yourself. I just reminded you that you were worth rebuilding for. I meant it. Uncle Ben taught me that love is a choice, one you make and remake every day. Sometimes the hardest part isn't making the choice, it's believing you deserve to. The wind pushed gently through the open window, bringing in the scent of fresh earth and jasmine from Iris's garden. I turned toward the glass. In the reflection, I no longer saw the abandoned child. I saw a woman who had been tested, a leader who had risen, a protector of something bigger than money or titles, the steward of a legacy built not from inheritance, but from intention, the woman Ben always believed I could become. Tomorrow, I'd meet with contractors about the Tacoma store, host the Foundation's first roundtable on legal advocacy, interview 2 new department heads, but tonight I sat in the study Uncle Ben had designed with his own hands. I let the stillness settle around me. I thought about the journey, and I whispered a promise. I'll protect it. All of it. Then I closed the journal on my lap, turned off the light, and let the quiet carry me into tomorrow.